Well, hello everybody, it's me, Chaz Large, back with another repair or fix-it video, and on the bench today we have one of these, which is a Dyson, just trying to find the model number, Dyson, whatever it is. Oh, there we are, SV03, Dyson SV03. Let's just go on there, you can see a bit more of it. Now, it works, as you can hear, but the problem is the extensions don't. According to the customer, you can just see that that's trying to work. The roller is just trying to work, but obviously it doesn't work consistently. Now, the fact that it's trying to work would tend to indicate that there's a problem. The other long extension one as well, he said that doesn't work with it either. Let's plug that in and see if that turns round. That's not doing anything. So my guess is that on all of the extensions, you can probably see, if I hold it up to the camera there, there are two little connectors here, alright, and they fit into the little two sockets in there. I would suspect probably that those connectors are the cause of the problem. So we'll put that one down there for a minute and we'll leave this one here. I mean, this one's got a nice universal joint, and one of my first suspects is cables, bendy cables. They quite often break. But before we do that, I think the thing I want to try is to see if there's any voltage coming out of here with our wonderful little test meter. So we'll stick that on DC volts and we will plug that in. Let's turn that round so whether you can see that. Oh yeah, you can just see that on the camera there. And if we fire it up, do we get any get a little short burst of voltage? Let's just turn it around so I can do it. Millivolts. Now, whether that's right or not, I don't know. I don't know whether there should be more consistent voltage coming out of there, or whether that's... I would have thought, if you're going to try and drive a motor that's in here, and it feels like it needs a significant sort of a motor to drive that, it would need a significant voltage to come out of there. So, I'm going to see what I can see. But I think before I do anything, it's actually reasonably full. Well, yeah, it's got lots of dust in it. I think I would, rather than have all that all over the bench, I think I'll just clean this out. So I'm going to stop the video and come back to you after I've given it a bit of a clean. Right, well, after emptying it and cleaning out, let's leave it there. Taking the roller out just to sort of see what's inside one of the heads. It feels like there's a motor in there. It's as simple as that. It seems to be a motor. Nothing seems to be anything more than that in there. So I think what I'm going to do, as it's the simplest option, is I'm going to see if I can put some voltage into this and see what happens, because it's a good possibility that it is just purely a DC motor. We'll start off with, say, 5 volts, fairly low current, and see if that will give us any kind of operation of this end. And sure enough, it's turning, drawing a fair bit of current. Let's increase that current limit. Going that way. Yep. So purely DC coming out into there is what is required. Let's put this beastie back together. We don't need to do any more than this. I think we can safely say that the attachment is okay. That clips in there, and then the little bit goes in the end, turns around and locks. Fairly easy once you know. There's probably an instruction book that tells you how that operates. So what we're missing then is from here we are missing a DC voltage coming out of here. A significant DC voltage is what we should be looking for. So let's just pop that back in there and run it for a second or so and just see what sort of voltage. So excuse the noise. We're just getting a little burst of millivolts coming out of there. Interesting to note that positive is on the left. 3 millivolts is all that's coming out of there, not enough to drive that motor. So I'm guessing that somewhere in here there is some kind of either a bad connection or there may be a control circuit that is generating that voltage. That's what we've got to try and identify next. Let's put that thing out of the way for a minute, give ourselves a bit more room to work on. Now, dismantling this doesn't look to be that easy. Right, well, I'm butting into this video now to tell you that I wasted an awful lot of time trying to fix the main vacuum cleaner part of this machine, because there was nothing wrong with it. I spent ages taking it apart and going into the circuitry. I did give it an internal clean, which was beneficial, but really and truly the main problem was actually dirt clogging up the main vacuum, the one on the extension on the long arm. That was basically just absolutely choked with hair and everything else. Stripping that down and cleaning it basically allowed that bit to work. The motor in that one was fine. However, the short soft roller, the motor itself was faulty. So I'm going to skip really towards the end of this short video. It's a partial repair, and I don't think I'll bother with putting any of the rest of the dismantling and repairing stuff down, because I mean I had to take the whole mechanism apart, clean it all out, which really and truly there's so many videos on YouTube about cleaning these Dyson vacuums and all the kind of things to do, so I shan't bother with that. So just skip really towards the end where I've diagnosed the problem and fixed it with the main roller and the short roller. Anyway, back to this Dyson vacuum. Here we are. Let's go back to that camera, and it turns out that nothing wrong with this bit at all. It is in fact the heads, the main brush head. Pick it up. I thought whilst the battery is charging, because the battery went flat, so I put it on to charge, I thought I would take this apart and have a look at it, and it was absolutely clogged up to the eyeballs with hair and dirt. I haven't finished cleaning it yet, but basically you couldn't see this roller. It was just so tight with hair all wrapped around it. The bearings at the end, which I haven't quite finished cleaning up, literally was absolutely wrapped solid. I had to prise this bit out of it to get that out. But anyway, I tested the motor on this and put 16 volts in, which is what there's a little label on there that says it's a 16 volt motor. So I put 16 volts into that motor went fine, and I thought, right, let's give this a try. So I put the battery back in, partially charged, connected it up, hit the power button, and this roller turns, no problem at all. So that one's okay. So just got to put that back together. But I then tried the same trick with this one, and this one just barely turns a fraction and stops. So I suspect possibly this one has been overloaded so much that the motor has got worn out or jammed. Anyway, I'm going to strip that down later on and see if I can make that motor work all the time. But I suspect probably that this motor, putting the same volts into this one, it's 16 volts, yeah, 16.2 volts, it says so on the little label there, and it barely turns, whereas that one spins around quite well. So I'm pretty sure that there is actually no fault with this bit, so I'll put it all back together this end, and just got to put the screws and that back in as and when, and hopefully we should be able to give it back to the customer once it's been fully tested. So really and truly, it was just jammed up with hair in that bit. So anyway, we'll be back for full testing a bit later on. Right, well, having dismantled, cleaned and rebuilt this long head, did a quick little test on it, put it back on the extension tube, and we've got to put this bit back together. Yep, put the box back on, which I've discovered has, when you operate this lever here, it's actually got dual function. So one press releases the bottom, and then the second press releases this. So again, if I'd have had a user manual for it, so one press does that, a second press then releases that. Quite smart actually. So there we are, so that's all back in there, that's working, and then we connect that back onto the front end, and we can see that the remote head works as well. So now we've got to fix, I'm hoping it's either, like in this one, all the bearings and that are all clogged up, because this is just turning a little bit. It seems to turn quite freely, but when you put that onto there, it used to just give one little burst, so it's not even doing that now. So I'm thinking maybe because I haven't got the filter in, it needs a bit of suction. But anyway, we did put some volts into it, and we found that 16 volts is what it's designed to be driven by. So we turn the voltage down to 16 volts and positive on the right, and it is working, but it seems to be drawing an awful lot of current. So I think what we'll do now is we'll see if we can strip this one down like the other one and give it a clean up, because chances are that's what the problem is. Right, well, it's one of those situations where I can find a replacement motor assembly, all like brand new in the housing and everything, £53–55, various places you can go to, but I can buy a brand new equivalent head for 43 quid. Brand new with, yeah, it's all complete. I can't make any recommendations. All I'm going to do is contact the customer and say, look, I've cleaned it, got the head, the long head working. To get that working, the best thing to do is buy a replacement head. So that's where I'm going to leave it. So I will say thanks very much for watching. Cheerio.